Because if we aren't accepting the narrative that that distance didn't pass through, and yet for whatever reason, the feds scrambled to repave that area.
Even cut all her hair off and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a Turning Point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job for Turning Point. Solidified. I got a feeling there's more to the story here.
All right, you guys, happy Monday. Erica Kirk, man, she really is just the moment. The speech that she gave, everybody was just wowed by her. Erica Kirk is at the head of Turning Point USA because, just like I alluded to last week, and which I will double down on now, I believe that people within that company betrayed Charlie. Okay?
Candice Owens has just blown the lid open on Charlie Kirk's death and how it seemingly wasn't a random act at all. In fact, she insinuated that it was actually the people closest to him that betrayed him. And Charlie knew it would happen too.
I want to say one more thing rather explosively. 3 people told me off record. 2 people who have this in a written communication from Charlie. One who is a Turning Point USA donor, and I would say very much one of the white knights in this. The very day before Charlie Kirk died, he expressed that he thought he was going to be killed. He told these people, I think they're going to kill me, okay? He did not express that to me, so I am telling you this based off the testimony of 3 people. And I am saying this because I hope that these people, who I think are good, will be inspired to come forward with that. Now, again, those conversations I had were off record. I honor that. If I say it's off record, it stays off record. But I'm hoping that watching what I am doing and feeling the energy that is rising across the world for people who want to know what the heck happened on 9/10, that, they will be brave and they will say, yeah, Charlie did the day before he died think that he was going to be killed, and maybe tell us, who is they? Well, for once and for all, who is they? Who is the they that he thought were going to kill?
Something strange is going on inside Turning Point USA, and Candice certainly isn't staying quiet about it. In one now seemingly forgotten episode, she makes one particularly chilling claim. She believes someone inside Charlie Kirk's own company may have betrayed him. And at the center of it all, Charlie's widow, Erica Kirk, who now runs the organization. Candice actually revealed that a woman was seen with the man who would assassinate Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson.
Before we get into that, some incredible breaking news. We have now confirmed that there was indeed a woman who was with the in the footage that was captured by the houses nearby the area. And for whatever reason, the FBI has not yet released or even acknowledged that that footage exists. This is absolutely huge, actually. I think this is the biggest thing that we have uncovered since the beginning of this investigation. So let's jump right back into this. Welcome back to Candice. We had received a lead live on the show. Someone paid money to inform us that there was footage that the FBI was hiding. Right? She wrote in, said, I have been trying to reach out to you everywhere. The FBI is hiding footage. The doorbell cam footage had more. This is what the person told us. She said, is then seen changing his clothes, and he is with a woman.
Candice didn't hold back. She said, if you're a rat on a ship, you should probably flee now. Then she went on to describe new footage that she claims raises serious questions about what really happened the day Charlie was shot. According to Candice, the footage shows a man taking down a camera just 4 minutes after Charlie was shot, and it was positioned right behind his head. She says she personally recognized that man, spoke to him, and even saw the footage, but promised not to release it publicly for some puzzling reasons.
We were unpacking the footage that was going viral of the guy that was taking down the camera, which was directly behind Charlie's head, a mere approximate 4 minutes after Charlie was shot. Everybody thought that it was very suspicious. I recognized the individual and reached out, had a conversation, saw the footage, and made the promise that I was not going to share it. Although I said to you, I encouraged them to share it. I believe that the reason everybody is a conspiracy theorist is because people don't share truth, right? Once you share everything, there's no room for conspiracy. And when I was sharing what I saw, I was doing so because I was just thinking that, this could help. Like, this can obviously remove people from their conspiracies. And then it kind of occurred to me that what I shared was a bigger deal than I had imagined by saying that I didn't see any blood. And that is a fact. I did not see any blood. In fact, the only blood that I did see at all, I'm talking about blood on the back, was on Charlie's hand, on Charlie's left hand, which, as many people have been saying, means that the blood moved forward. We don't need to get into all of the gore. But what I didn't expect thereafter was for the Turning Point USA spokesperson, Andrew Colvett, to issue this statement as people were asking questions like, hey, how is that possible? How was there nothing in the back if this is the gun that was used? Andrew Colvett tweeted this over the weekend. I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter, and I apologize if this is somewhat graphic. But in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know.
Candice wasn't buying that. She accused the organization of trying to manipulate Charlie's Christian audience, saying they were using the word miracle to make people stop asking questions. She pointed out that many conservatives are hunters who understand how weapons work, and that this explanation doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yes, the conservative base is filled with Christians, but also the conservative base is filled with a lot of hunters, okay? People that hunt and they know weapons and they know how weapons work and they know how weapons don't work. And this particular statement to me does not pass the sniff test. Now, again, when I shared that information, I had assumed they were going to say the angle went through this way. I did not imagine they were just going to say that it was a miracle. Alex Jones immediately took to X Live. This began trending. The statement began trending, and he jumped onto X, and he responded to that statement saying this. Take a listen.
The spokesperson for TPUSA just posted 2 hours ago that they talked to the coroner and that Charlie Kirk was shot with a .30-06 in the left side of his neck, the carotid artery, and that he's a man of steel, and that the bones in his neck that are like chicken bones stopped a bullet that travels 2,500 feet a second out of the barrel at 200 yards, depending on the grain of the cartridge and the rest of it. Probably hit him at 1,900 feet per second. I've shot hogs at 500 yards, 30-06, right to the side. Tiny hole, blows a 4-inch hole out the other side. We're talking through 2 feet of a hog. Boom. Hit him in the head, brain completely blows up. They just said he got shot with 30-06 and that it didn't go through.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to process. And here's the thing. If you were going to bring me to the argument that this truly was a miracle, it probably would not be in the midst of a circumstance where the feds are lying.
As these doubts spread online, Kash Patel released a statement promising a thorough and exhaustive federal investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination. He listed every angle they were supposedly exploring, from the bullet's trajectory and possible accomplices to text messages, Discord chats, and even a plane that reportedly turned off its transponder near the scene. But Candice wasn't convinced. She pointed out that the plane's owner, Derek Maxfield, had already admitted they got permission to turn off the transponder from air traffic control, meaning the feds' claim that it was just a signal loss didn't add up.
Is when he says that they looked into the transponder thing and yeah, we checked it out and actually they just lost service. Okay, that disputes what the plane owner themselves, he identified himself, Derek Maxfield, and issued a long statement on Instagram where he said that they got permission to, turn off services, which are transponder services, and they got that permission from the air traffic controller. So it can't be both. It can't be, no, it never happened, they just lost service, and Derek Maxfield saying, no, we had communication with the ATC, which is air traffic control, and what we did followed guidelines. So that's already a problem. Secondly, saying that you're not going to release information because you want to protect the integrity of the investigation while also releasing those ridiculous text messages that looked like somebody was having fun on TikTok and making, a ridiculous skit. I don't feel like the investigation has much integrity, or the feds in general have any integrity after you guys gaslit us about Jeffrey Epstein, okay? So if you want us to, or if you want to restore credibility to the feds, I would allow the mommy sleuths to take over. That's my opinion. I'd get in touch and allow the internet to do what the internet does, because now you're answering everything that we brought up. Not me, we. Because it is because of the entire world paying attention, sending tips. I'm grateful to God that I have a platform to be able to share that information and to encourage it. But this is just coming from regular people around the world. And now you guys are, it feels like playing defense because you have not been playing offense.
Then came Candice's most shocking theory yet. She revealed that beneath the site where Charlie was shot, there's a network of underground pipelines and tunnels directly below his chair. She says photos show access hatches and valves connected to the university's irrigation system.
About how important those valves were to warfare, because if you just want to shut down someone's pipeline, let's say you want to shut off water, or you want to shut off gasoline, yeah, it makes sense why the government would want to be controlling pipelines and valves. But anyways, I started to ask myself, oh, well, did anybody look into whether or not there was anything under Charlie Kirk when he was right? Because if we aren't accepting the narrative that that particular guy, that distance, didn't pass through, and yet for whatever reason the feds scrambled to repave that area, maybe, as some people have speculated, he was from a closer distance. I started wondering, was there an access point to any valves? Were there any pipelines that could have been under Charlie? And as it turns out, I looked at some old pictures of where he was sitting, and there was a massive pipeline that was almost exactly behind where Charlie was sitting. Here's that maybe it's a water pipeline, I don't know, but there it is under the flag. And to your right, I went into my tips line and I saw that somebody had messaged me about this. More than one person messaged me about this. They're like, hey, yeah, there's like a whole underground thing there. And to your right, you're observing those two little boxes, and they told me that was a trap door. Now, I'm not implying someone, popped up and shot Charlie, but that's a close-up of that area. I'm just implying that there's an entire underground there. And I remember when I looked at the footage, I felt like it was coming up. I don't know anything about ballistics. I'm not an expert. But if there was a hatch door nearby, then we can assume, as we should always assume with colleges, obviously stadiums, there's always an underground path.
But things didn't stop there. After Candice's video went viral, she says someone reported her to the FBI and CIA, accusing her of spreading dangerous theories. Candice laughed it off, saying she wasn't backing down and wouldn't go to prison alone. The thing is, the media often painted Charlie as a quick-talking provocateur, sharp, ruthless in debate, unstoppable on stage. But when whispers started surfacing about a mysterious name, Lance Twiggs, and a lightning-fast indictment that followed, it became clear something deeper was hiding beneath the headlines. And right at the center of that growing storm now stands his wife, Erica Kirk, and more importantly, the organization she now heads. This organization, however, is now allegedly trying to prevent people from asking around about Charlie's death.
We have, at this moment, no definitive understanding of what happened on the day that he was assassinated. But what we do know definitively is that the feds are lying to us. That is obvious. It is abundant. If you're able to think thoughts, you recognize that something is very wrong with the story that has been presented to the public. And I think that what the public doesn't understand, and I count myself among the public, is why it seems as though Turning Point USA executives, and I'll say seems, are not even remotely interested in challenging that official narrative. They're not interested in challenging it publicly, at least. In fact, I think it was an ex-user that pointed out, he put it rather bluntly when he said, so they want us to forgive Tyler Robinson, but to attack the people that are trying to solve the murder of Charlie Kirk? Like, that's not right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. Of threats of lawsuits, we're collecting evidence of it. What are we even talking about? And I want to say that what's been bothering me in particular are the micro lies. It seems that they're suddenly in the business of telling micro lies, tiny little misrepresentations, tiny little half-truths that right out of the gate seems altogether unnecessary. It really makes me wonder, who are they protecting exactly? You'll see oftentimes they and other influencers will invoke Erica as the reason that it's not appropriate to ask questions. It's just not appropriate while Erica is still mourning for you guys to ask any questions. And I'm just gonna come back at you with some common sense. What sort of widow wouldn't want people to investigate the assassination of their husband? She has not explicitly said that, but the influencers are invoking that, right? They're invoking it's not appropriate right now for people to be asking questions. That's what I mean when I say they are David hogging us, okay? You could also use another example, somebody that was on the right, Kyle Kashuv. What essentially means is that when a tragedy takes place and we are emotional, our emotions are raw. Me especially, I think this was the first time where I couldn't really check my emotions. I'm just now like moving out of the grief stage. There will be people that then will try to manipulate you, right? They will try to manipulate you by using that strategy of saying, well, it would be really wrong. It would be really wrong for you to look beneath this layer or to ask a question about this. And it would be an injustice to Charlie Kirk's legacy, really.
And throughout the entire situation, Candice can't help but believe that someone betrayed Charlie.
I am starting to think, and let me know if you think this is crazy, but I'm starting to think that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was something akin to a regicide, right? The assassination of a king to install a new ruler who the king would have never approved of, right? Maybe people around him counseling the king, people who perhaps betrayed him, because there are just too many things that I am finding out that are not adding up to me, okay? There are also, I do want to say this, too many first times leading up to this event, okay? One person who emailed me said, hey, I've been supplying bulletproof vests to Charlie for all of these campus tours. And suddenly last spring, the last campus tour, they canceled my contract with them. They did not want to renew. When I asked them why, they told me that Charlie wanted to go a different direction by getting an army vest instead, like a metal army vest, I believe is what he says. And he said, this made no sense to me. I didn't understand it. Okay, so Charlie decided to use a new company, even though I don't think he was actually wearing a bullet vest on that day. So what happened there, I'm not sure. Something else that is really bothering me, just because I have done these campus tours, is the question of why Charlie was set to do 2 events in Utah a mere 20 days apart, okay? He was supposed to do UVU, and then today was scheduled to do, just 20 days later, USU. Now, those 2 campuses are just under 2 hours apart if you're driving. Is also interesting to know that the Utah FBI also got a new set of employees. The state FBI department, Kash Patel, went ahead and fired not only the chief of the Utah borough, but also some other people. You can see this in the Daily Mail article. They recount this after Charlie's death. Kash Patel questions grow as it's revealed he gutted the Utah FBI leadership before Charlie Kirk's assassination. That is true. He fired the chief, among other people, and replaced her with Robert Bowles in August. I think Robert Bowles, actually, it was his first week when Charlie got shot. And he's somebody who has been in DC for decades. So it seems to me to be an unusual placement to then want to re-up your entire life, assuming you have a wife and kids, and move to Utah. But whatever, again, everything just feels a little too brand new to me. Then I speak to the individual who I told you guys that I recognized, that had taken down the cameras minute 4 after Charlie was shot. The back camera of all the ones, when you take the front camera, I don't know. Again, I'm not here to read into how people might act in an emergency event, but I thought it was weird that he was there in general, actually, that he was behind Charlie the entire time. I've never seen that. He's never been behind me at an event. He's never been lingering around me at an event. And I asked about that. I asked about just his presence behind Charlie, and plus the mysterious phone call that he was seen making in like minute 3 after Charlie was assassinated. And he he told me explicitly that they were trying something new that day. Like it was something new. Charlie's super ambitious, and on the AV thing, they were trying something new, and they wanted to be able to feed it back instantly to Arizona. None of it makes sense to me because these events are typically live streamed.
After Charlie's death, authorities moved fast. Within 33 hours, police named Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old electrical engineering dropout from Utah State, as the prime suspect.
But again, something new, okay? So let's stick with that theme. Do you want to know something else that was brand new leading up to this event? Charlie's perspective on Israel, okay? So let me say this so you can hear it. Charlie Kirk's perspective on Israel was not starting to shift. It had shifted entirely, okay? There are no ifs and there are no ands and there are no buts about it. Israel knew that. Turning Point USA knew that because Charlie was explicit. So my question is, why isn't Turning Point USA making any statements and shutting down this repeat attempt by Israel to lie and to pretend that towards the end, Charlie was just authoring love letters to Israel, giving them a perspective of here's how we can win here's what you guys need to do. You need to work with this Hillel, whatever it is. Yeah, the same people that are calling me anti-Semitic, you need to work with those people harder. And he was just putting it on paper. Was it an email? What was that they were sharing? The New York Post, the Israeli Post, right? What were they sharing there? He wrote of his deep love for Israel. He had nothing else to do in May. Wrote of his deep love for Israel to a letter to Netanyahu. Netanyahu said they were close, but in the letter, Charlie puts his number, which apparently Netanyahu didn't have his number. And we're supposed to believe, did he send that as an email, by the way? Can somebody clarify? Was that an email they were sharing? Or did he send it in the mail to him? Could somebody share that, please? I'm assuming it was an email. Can someone share the timestamp on that? Just kind of like authenticate that email. Because I'm very aware of what's going on, okay? And I don't know how the executives over at Turning Point USA sleep at night. Okay. I don't know how you can present yourselves as a Christian organization and not be dedicating yourself to the truth. No matter what the cost is, you tell the truth. That's it. Okay. You don't hide it. You don't try to obfuscate it. You don't try to say, well, wait until the memorial event before we start looking into who murdered him. You tell the truth and you tell it immediately.
Online, the hashtag Utah cover-up started trending. Was Tyler a scapegoat or was someone helping him? Then came Erica. Just hours after Charlie was pronounced dead, she stepped in front of cameras with their 2 children, calm, steady, almost too composed. Charlie fought for his faith, she said, and now he's with his savior. At the massive memorial held at State Farm Stadium, she spoke confidently about America, faith, and continuing Charlie's mission. But she barely mentioned their marriage.
Hello. God bless all of you for coming here from all over the world to honor and celebrate my Charlie.
No tears, no hesitation. And that's when people started asking, why does she seem so untouched? Her first social media post after his death was cryptic. You have no idea what fire you lit in this woman. It went viral overnight, more than 1 million shares. Some called it strength, others called it a warning.
A couple of weeks ago, before Charlie lost his life, Charlie was in the Hamptons and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman. Because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset and threats were made. That is what I am told. And I will tell you that I am very happy for Bill Ackman to dispute this narrative. In fact, he was asked to dispute this narrative. Max Blumenthal went out to him today, and Bill Ackman came back and said, I have receipts I can show you. And he did not provide the receipts. This is not how it went down. I know it went down this way. I'm waiting for one of them to go on record and to say that it didn't go down this way. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say.
Perhaps the most damning piece of evidence that Erica Kirk isn't the saint she's made out to be is the fact that on September 18th, just 8 days after Charlie's death, TPUSA's board named Erica Kirk as the new CEO. They claimed it was Charlie's dying wish, but the speed of the decision set off alarms everywhere. People called it a power grab. Others called it a takeover in plain sight. Rumors about missing funds, foreign donors, and changes to TPUSA's mission only made things worse. Charlie's parents didn't attend the announcement. They didn't say a word. Meanwhile, Candice kept pushing. Her posts got millions of views. She compared Erica's memorial speeches, emotionless and polished, with Charlie's raw prayers. Side by side, she captioned it. Which one is the truth? It hit 12 million views in 24 hours. Soon, every detail became a clue. The way Erica stood, the way she smiled, even the way she hugged Trump during the posthumous Presidential Medal of Freedom ceremony. TikTok users called her body language too confident.
Nothing is a coincidence. Hold on to that thought. Did you know that Charlie Kirk's father, Robert W. Kirk, was actually the architect for Trump Towers? Also, did you know that Erica Lane Kirk won Miss Arizona USA in 2012? Don't forget, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 until 2015. Seeing the correlation here? Now, not saying age difference is a big thing, but did you know Erica was 5 years Charlie Sr.? But this is where coincidences aren't coincidences. People, this was so arranged. And there's so much more to Erica Kirk. Kind of like how she was all into basketball, didn't want to be all girly, never liked to dress up, even cut all her hair off, and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a turning point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job for Turning Point. Solidified. I got a feeling there's more to the story here.
Her Romanian background was dragged into wild theories about intel ties and honeypot networks.
Erica Kirk is either the epitome of what it means to be a MAGA woman who dumbs herself down and minimizes her success in the name of the man and the movement, or she is a honeypot, because there's been speculations that Kash Patel is in a honeypot relationship, and that would kind of make sense, right? Like, you want to keep those guys close, you want to keep those guys together, you want to keep those guys controlled, right? If you don't know what a honeypot is, it's normally when a very attractive woman is used to control, manipulate, keep an eye on, guide a man, right? Erica Kirk has a law degree. She has a doctorate. She has 2 bachelor's degrees. She's 5 years older than Charlie. She had a successful basketball career in college. She had a successful pageantry career. And then in 2018, she runs into Charlie Kirk for the first time. And then they're very, very quickly married within, I think it's like 3 years or whatever. First of all, they've only been together for 7. I've keep seeing people say they've been floating around for like 10 years or whatever. They haven't. They've only been together for 7 years. This isn't some godly, long, profound, relationship that a lot of these people, they bring these people in MAGA, the high school sweethearts, whatever. She's either dumbed herself down to fit the narrative of what it means to be a MAGA woman, or she's a honeypot.
It was no longer about the it was about truth versus control, grief versus power, and whether the woman who once stood beside Charlie Kirk might know more than she's letting on. Now, all eyes are on October 30th, 2025, the date of Tyler Robinson's next court hearing. Will it bring answers or just more questions? Was Tyler really alone? Did someone help him? And is Erica's calm the strength of a widow, or the mask of someone with secrets to protect? We may just find out soon.